Bill Bender joins us in 20 minutes. We'll get some thoughts with our friend from the Sporting News on all things college football, because if it's a Monday, we're going to be talking about another coach being fired. That is sure to come up. We'll also get into all the latest from baseball with the World Series. There is so much to talk about. We could have spent the whole show on it. We're going to give it one segment and sort of marinate after we marinated in what took place over the weekend. But we start things out in the NFL, where there is always lots to talk about, and Sam Yarnell is here. And we'd probably need an entire show to go through everything that happened on what I considered sort of a show me Sunday in the NFL. This was a week where we were going to get some answers. All season long, we've been sitting here saying, where are we going to get answers? When are we going to really start to separate the cream from the crop, so to speak? And I think we started to get those answers this weekend, Sam. And let's begin with your Buffalo Bills. And there they are in all their splendor, beating the Kansas City Chiefs, because if it's the regular season, it's the Bills beating the Chiefs. And then we get to the postseason and something different happens. And I created a SportsWrap short yesterday asking this very question. And I will posit it to you after what we saw in that game yesterday, where they completely stifled Patrick Mahomes essentially for 3+ quarters. Certainly got to him. They were able to run the football well. Josh Allen was his usual wonderful self, and they hang on for a win. All that being said, what would make you believe that this year is different if they meet in the playoffs, which is still not a foregone conclusion considering what the Chiefs have to do to get into the playoffs? What would make you believe that this year is different? I have a couple of things on my mind. I want to see if you think the same.
Right, Jason, it's what you said there at the end. It's the main takeaway from this game is that it's what I've been banging this table saying for years at this point, but especially this season, this is not the Chiefs that you are used to. I mean, you mentioned it. You watched Patrick Mahomes play in that game. It's not that he wasn't his usual self. It's not that he wasn't good. He was downright bad. Like, horrible. It was bad quarterbacking the Chiefs had on Sunday afternoon in Orchard Park. You said it was a show me Sunday. Absolute letdown from the team that hails from the show me state in a game that they had to win, quite frankly, more than the Buffalo Bills did. Here's the reality of the Chiefs situation heading into week 10 of the NFL season. They're staring up at the playoffs. Their game coming out of their bye in Denver has become must win, because if they don't, they'll be essentially knocked out of the playoff picture altogether. They've got 3 games on their calendar now that after yesterday's result have become can't lose, in that Broncos game I just mentioned, their next game with the Broncos, and their latter game hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. And this is a team that, from a sports betting perspective, has better odds right now to miss the playoffs than they do to win the Super Bowl. It's the second time in Patrick Mahomes' career that his team has been 5-4. Second time in his 8-year, but really 7-year career. Both times have come the year after they lost the Super Bowl. In both of those years, they did not make their way back to the Super Bowl. The difference is this team, much less talented than the 2021 team around Patrick Mahomes, and I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, Jason. I think we've crossed that bridge. The Kansas City Chiefs are on my list for teams to watch to miss the playoffs this year, because they've quite simply dug themselves a hole that is incredibly hard to dig out of.
Yeah, look, I don't think I don't know if I'd go as far as you yet, because the one thing I've noticed about you is you're pretty good at pushing the panic button and going like full on 5-alarm fire. I'm not going to go there yet, because again, as I said last week, it all still sits there in front of them. It all still sits right there in front of them. They've still got 2 games against the Broncos. They're 2 games behind them for the division. The teams that sit in front of them, the Chargers, the Jaguars, the Steelers, who I don't know if any of us are sold on, although they had a great game yesterday, which we'll get to in a second. I refuse to count out a team that is still as capable, that played as badly as you say they played yesterday. And they did. They didn't play well yesterday. I mean, there's no getting around that. But even in that circumstance, they lost by 7 points on the road.
Well, but I mean, you read that that's a very technical answer to that loss, right? They were down for 2 scores for the majority of that game,
no
2
argument.
plus quarters of that game,
No argument.
and the Bills in prevent defense up 2 scores at a point where the Chiefs really didn't have time to get 2
argument.
scores.
And I'll make the same
let
argument.
them walk down the field.
The
Bills defense, and this is the thing, right, Jason? We've talked about how not proficient, I won't say bad, but not proficient this Bills defense has been all year. And all of a sudden they go out and Patrick Mahomes looks horrible against them. And everyone wants to say this is one of the best defenses in the league. It's not. The Chiefs offense just is not producing the way it has
didn't produce
in weeks
yesterday.
prior or years
I was going
prior.
to say, in weeks prior, it has definitely started to produce and get a little bit better. The other thing that I notice is a difference as to why I think it'd be different in the postseason, they ran the ball. 27 for 1 foot. They were able to run the football effectively against Kansas City, and nobody's really done that to the tune the way Buffalo did it yesterday. That's one of the things I would look out for. We're shortchanging the Colts and Steelers, and I apologize for that because that is an eye-opening result yesterday. When Daniel Jones becomes Daniel Jones and turns it over 5 times, on the road in Pittsburgh against a Steelers team that could not get out of its own way the week prior, that is eye-opening, that result to me, Sam. I'm not saying, hey, look, I said I wanted to see what happened when this team got stacked up against real competition. We're going to see that throughout the second half of the season. I don't think Colts fans are panicking on Monday morning, but they certainly should be a little bit concerned.
I'll tell you what, the Anthony Richardson button has to be on the table.
Oh,
with
no
that
way!
Performance,
No way!
With that performance against the 28th ranked defense in the National Football League, if Daniel Jones comes out and does that for 2 more weeks in a row, I 100% could see this organization going to Anthony Richardson. This is the ghost of Daniel Jones' past that you have now seen in the mirror again against one of the 4 worst defenses analytically in the NFL. That's unacceptable the way that this offense is built to produce. But he's the only one that can make them lose, and he made them lose.
But this was the defense that they thought they were going to be before the season started, and it showed up yesterday. So maybe we have to look at it a little bit as Pittsburgh's defense finally showed up a week after getting torched by Green Bay. There's a lot of ways to look at it. We'll look into the baseball next. Coming up in 10 minutes, it's Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Does a great job on all things football. We have another in memoriam to do in the coaching ranks. We'll get to that. Sam Yarnell, 26 million people watched Game 7 of the World Series. Almost 27 million, if I'm not mistaken. Peaked out at 31 million between 11:30 and 11:45 p.m. Eastern on Saturday night. What a great night for baseball. What a great year for baseball. Unfortunately, it ends with the Dodgers winning the World Series because, I mean, look, at the end of the day, there it is. Ding. At the end of the day, I don't know how great that is for baseball that they win again. And I don't even know how great it is for baseball when, if you ask me, the Toronto Blue Jays played better over the course of 7 games. They were the better team over the course of 7 games, and they lose the World Series. A wild Game 7, every twist and turn you could imagine. We don't have time to possibly go through all of them, but we'll be showing some of them to you as we go through the segment. Congratulations to Dodgers. Congratulations, Clayton Kershaw, walking off as a World Series champion in his final season, which is really cool. What a wild baseball game on Saturday night, Sam.
And congratulations to baseball, because the Dodgers winning has saved the sport. The Dodgers winning has triggered what is already inevitable in a lockout coming after next year that will inevitably force Major League Baseball into new contract structure that will keep stars in the markets, the smaller markets, in which they come up and make young kids around the country fawn over baseball for decades to come. This is a conversation that I cannot wait to get more in depth into over the course of the next 365 days as it becomes more relevant. However, This was amazing. Like you said, Jason, the Blue Jays flatly outplayed the Dodgers. They made better decisions. Unacceptable, the base running from Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I mean, those in the know, quite literally single-handedly lost his team the World Series. But from a Dodger perspective, yeah, the dominance that was inevitable shown in the form of Miguel Rojas. I don't think any of us expected that. There was one thing I wanted to mention. Andres Gimenez in Game 7, taking the pitch off the hand and then making the benches clear. You have to be an unbelievably, unimaginably egomaniacal, selfish piece of crap human being to do what Andres Gimenez did to his team in Game 7 of the World Series. To insinuate at any point that anybody in Game 7 of the World Series was throwing at you, it'd be more understandable. No, it wouldn't, but I'm making this up. If it were Vlad or one of the faces of the franchise, Andres Gimenez, you're going to make the benches clear? I think that there's an argument to be made that the distraction from the rally that was created by the Blue Jays in that moment with the benches clearing brawl factored into them losing this game, Jason. Absolutely flatly unacceptable. Would not be surprised if both he and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa find themselves off rosters to start spring training.
Andres Gimenez, former All-Star, by the way. How about the play at the plate? What did you think? What did you make of the way that review was handled? The play at the plate where the runner's called out, but the foot kind of comes off the bag. I'm looking at that, and I'm not going to lie. In my chair as I'm watching it, I'm saying, please don't let the World Series end on this.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been a nightmare. And there's a part of me that wonders if that's the reason they wound up ruling the way they did, was because that'd be a nightmare to have this amazing World Series, 7 games extra, and then it ends on that. I thought that was interesting, because I could have made an argument that the runner should have been called safe. I could certainly see the argument for it.
And this is what, so the runner, IKF, right? This is what I'm referring to, and him losing his team the World Series. Yeah, it was a close play, whatever. The fact of the matter in that instance is it never should have been. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa never should have been even that close to being out, especially the way Miguel Rojas handled the ball at second base. But if you look where Isaiah Kiner-Falefa's secondary lead takes him, even with the infield in, at the point of contact, the guy's 6 feet away from third base. When you've got 90 or 84 feet in front of you, that's a recipe for disaster on a contact play with the bases loaded. From a baseball perspective, he deserved to be out, so I'm very happy that they didn't overturn the call. It was horrible base running in your team's biggest spot, in the season's biggest spot, where all the league's eyes are watching, and you make a base running blunder as Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, who was brought in to replace Bo Bichette for his athleticism and base running. Absolutely unacceptable. Again, if I were a GM, he's cut. I don't care what it costs. He's cut before we even get off the plane, before we even leave the stadium after Game 7.
So Will Smith hits the game-winning home run. Miguel Rojas hits the game-tying home run. When I think of Miguel Rojas, by the way, I think of Luis Sojo elevating the Yankees to a World Series in one, just a ground ball up the middle that winds up winning the Yankees a game in the World Series against the Mets. It might have been in the clincher. Obviously a lot different because the Yankees won that series, I think, in 5. But that was the thought that came to mind. Journeyman, total journeyman guy in his mid to late 30s, playing out the end of his career, making $4 million a year, $4.5 million a year. Best money ever spent by the Dodgers. No, forget all the zillions of dollars you're spending on this roster. It was $4.5 million Miguel Rojas that winds up getting the hit that keeps your season alive, and ultimately you win the World Series. But Sam, baseball is staring, as you mentioned, down the barrel of a gun that is the Dodgers being favored bigly next year to win another World Series. And a third straight While some people will make the argument, wow, the greatness of the Dodgers, all this, there are a lot of people, as you mentioned, that will push the panic button in a major way, and the alarm bells will be ringing if the Dodgers do win a third in a row. And they should be the favorites right now. And by the way, they are plus 100%. They are plus 350. You have to scroll down to get to the Blue Jays, who are 20-1 to win the World Series next year. And that's because this roster could look a lot different.
Well, they call lightning in a bottle this year. Let's not call it anything other than what it is. They were very fortunate with a lot of different signings this year. Listen, I'll say this, though, about Game 7 and the Miguel Rojas thing. Every time we get one of these, it's always a different weird hero. You had Rajai Davis for the Guardians back in the day, Howie Kendrick for the Nationals in 2019, Miguel Rojas in 2025. It's always someone random.
It is always somebody random. That's why we love it so much. A fantastic World Series, a fantastic year for baseball. Bill Bender joins us next. Welcome back to this Monday edition of the show. Coming up later on, Brian Twining from Bleacher Nation on NASCAR, the Cup Series championship, going to Kyle Larson. We'll do that in odds and ends today. 20 minutes from now, a big win for the Seahawks and an absolutely brutal loss for the Commanders. We'll get into that some. But let's talk some college football. Here he is, Bill Bender, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only from the Sporting News. It does a terrific job on college football and joins us every Monday here on the show to recap what we've seen. We're not going to start with the coaching firing this time. We'll get to that later on because there was another. Because if it's a Monday or a day ending in Y, there's a coaching firing in college football. But I want to get your thoughts to start with Vanderbilt and Texas. I texted you there's always one game that I want to text you about on Saturday and disrupt your day, your busy day. And this one was Vanderbilt and Texas. And I asked the question, Vanderbilt getting down big in that game, but rallying late. Does it sort of save them in the eyes of the voters? Does it save them in the eyes of the playoff committee? Are they still a playoff team? Can they be? What were your thoughts, Bill, as you've had a chance to sort of marinate in what we saw on Saturday between Vanderbilt and Texas?
Well, a different story between the third and fourth quarter, obviously. I mean, it was 34-10 at one point, and the game ended with an onside kick kind of laying on the field, daring Vanderbilt to recover it. So I do think they saved a lot of face there. The two big stories to me out of that game is Arch Manning. Hey, when you let a guy develop a little bit, he can do okay. I mean, that was one. They made that look easy. Vanderbilt struggled to run the football, and Diego Pavia tried to bring them back. Not a deal breaker for the Commodores as far as the playoff. But I think one of my overreactions, Jason, is that tomorrow I won't be surprised if Texas is in the top 10 in the college football playoff rankings because they beat Oklahoma and they beat Vanderbilt.
Wow.
Bill, from an SEC perspective, what is it? I know all the talk, it seems, over the last, I don't know how many weeks, but it's been Alabama's here, right? Will Texas A&M ever be able to challenge them? Between what happened in this game and what happened at the cocktail party, how does the SEC shake up in your eyes?
A bunch of good teams, but no truly dominant elite team. It's a different race than the Big Ten where everybody's looking up at Ohio State as they should be. Georgia is gettable. It's not like 21 and 22. Alabama is gettable. It's not like the Nick Saban years. I think Texas A&M is going vastly underappreciated considering what Marcel Reed is and Cassius Howe leading that aggressive defense. They're only a 6-point favorite at Missouri, and Missouri is going to be playing a backup quarterback. That's how I'll go out on a limb and say the Aggies win that game and get to it'd be 9-0. And a good bet they're going to be 11-0 when they play the Longhorns in the regular season finale.
Give me a thought on Miami, falling at SMU. They stormed the field at SMU, as they should. A great win for that program. But, I mean, is that essentially curtains for Miami at this point?
Did they really storm the field?
They did.
I think, oh my gosh. I turned the TV pretty quick after it. I may have beat this field storming, I suppose. Miami, it's the same cycle. I saw a meme yesterday where it's dominant September, 2 soul-crushing losses, win an average bowl game, we're back to preseason hype. And nobody arguably, I mean, I think I was on this show 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3, telling you guys, hey, they're the one team I want to see play Ohio State. And I still think from an athlete standpoint, I still do. But just the turnover, that was a bad throw in overtime that led to that defeat. And,
Carson Beck's stock just crashing.
And what, here it is, when you root for chaos and carnage and those things, I mean, yeah, it's entertaining for the ACC, but it also translates into you're only getting one team in the playoff.
So that's my question, Bill. Obviously, from a playoff perspective, from a conference championship perspective, Duke is currently the favorite to win this conference with Georgia Tech losing over the weekend, Duke beating Clemson, and then Miami obviously falling to SMU. Those 3 big results in the ACC have put Duke at the top. If they win this conference, do they have any shot to beat anyone in the college football playoff? It's Duke in football.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched Illinois hammer Duke earlier this year, and they've been up and down. But, yeah, I mean, that's my point. If I was picking somebody, I'd probably stick with Virginia. One of the things fans are going to lose their mind about is Virginia lost a game to an ACC school, NC State, that doesn't count against their ACC record, right? So, like, at the end, that's going to be a thing where they're telling – I think it was NC State that beat them, right? Earlier this season. I wanted to get that. I was saying that in my head.
Because it was scheduled before they were in the ACC.
So, I mean, there you go. That's something that could throw this entire thing off with Duke or Miami or even a team like Pitt, who is, despite losing the backyard brawl, is all of a sudden 7-2. Won't be surprised if they're in the top 25 as well.
How much I know Notre Dame beat Boston College. They had to struggle a little bit, and then the second half they pull away. How much does Miami losing and Navy losing hurt Notre Dame?
I don't think that much. I think it actually helps them because here's the illogical part of this whole process is Notre Dame's going to be ranked about 11 or 12 in the rankings and maybe at worst.
But do they control their own destiny, Bill? I don't feel like they do.
Kind of. They have. Well, I mean, it starts with you have to go 10-2.
Sure.
Then what? Then you could get caught up.
That may not be enough.
Well, I think what helps them is I'm not sure a Big Ten team goes 10-2 outside of Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State. So, like, if USC goes 10-2, that helps Notre Dame because Notre Dame beat them. And if Texas A&M stays unbeaten, that helps Notre Dame. But I think it's going to call to this. I do think they'll make the playoff. I do think the Power Four conferences are going to get a little more, like, annoyed with that fact each time it happens because you're taking away from somebody who has the structure of a conference. Like, where do you think Notre Dame would be a dominant team in the ACC right now? It's hard to say that when they lost to Miami.
Dominant team? I don't know if I'd say they'd be a dominant team, but yeah, they're certainly better than Duke.
Right. Well, I mean, but they also went up to Boston College and kind of messed around. So it's which one is it for me? And that's why that Pitt game is so huge, because I think there's a decent chance that Pitt could slip into the ACC championship game. Really like their linebackers. And, Notre Dame is what they are. They've won 6 straight games by double digits, though.
Bill Bender, the Sporting News, hanging out with myself and Sam Yarnell. We've got another segment to talk about another change in the college coaching ranks. And Sam's got to talk about North Texas, apparently. That's next. Coming up in 10 minutes, a Sunday night football game Commanders fans would rather forget. We'll get into that coming up. That was hard to watch, man. Whew. Bill Bender of the Sporting News hanging out with us to talk college football. I'm almost tempted to ask you about the play in that Jayden Daniels thing, but I don't want to because I'll get derailed and we'll spend the whole segment talking about it. I should ask you about your Packers, though. Oh, my God. I mean, really? We're going to do that tomorrow on the show in Weekend Leftovers. But really, Bill? The Packers losing to the Panthers? I mean, come on, Bill.
I've told many this is why we can't, as fans, completely trust Matt LaFleur. That's a game. Super Bowl teams stomp on those teams in that game. They allow no room for breathing. Losing Tucker Kraft hurt, obviously, but that's still a game that Green Bay needs to win. But here's the frustrating part, Jason. They'll play Philadelphia next Monday, and I won't be surprised if they win.
Yeah,
that's the aggravation I feel right now with Green Bay with this playing down to teams like Cleveland and Carolina.
That's the story of this NFL season. All right, Sam's got a question about North Texas, which we learned is in Denton, Texas. Sam Yarnell.
That's right, Jason. The American Bill has turned on its head the exact way that we all expected it to. And now this G5 bid to the college football playoff, it seems every week is going to become more confusing. How do you see all of this playing out the rest of the season? How important is this Navy loss with Notre Dame still looming on their schedule? Where do you see the G5 bid going ultimately when the college football playoff comes around?
Well, a couple teams to watch. I mean, Memphis obviously would be the best bet to be ranked in the playoff rankings tomorrow with that 8-1 record, but their quarterback's been banged up a little bit, and they have a loss to UAB. Navy, like you said, tough loss to North Texas. North Texas got run off the field by South Florida, who actually probably has the best resume, but they also have 2 losses. So we'll see if they can get back in the mix. And then just keep an eye on San Diego State. Good defense, 1-loss team in the Mountain West, chance to make a run there. And then James Madison's the only other one. Those are the group of 5 schools with 1 loss or less. I still think Memphis has the inside track, but it's as every bit as unpredictable as everything else.
Sorry, I was just looking at UConn. They're 6-3. Sorry, I just had to see how the Huskies were doing under Jim Moore.
There you go.
I'd like to pretend I was listening to anything you were saying, but I wanted to see what UConn. Wow, UConn scored 332. Oh, sorry. Let's talk about Hugh Freeze here for a moment. Auburn decides to let him go. Where do you slip that Auburn job when you talk about coaching vacancies now? And were you surprised that they pulled the trigger in season on Hugh Freeze, given everybody else that's had the trigger pulled on him here in this regular season of college football?
I think he was on the hot seat for so long that it reaches a temperature that, all right, we got to do it. You know what I mean? And all these close losses, which, goes toward program building. I mean, if you're stuck in that close loss stage, in theory, in the old days, you would have 5 years. That would be year 2. You're losing close games. And then in year 3, you're winning close games. And they never really gave him that. I guess they did give him that opportunity because it went a little bit slower. But I still think the Auburn job's right there behind, it's behind LSU, Penn State, Florida.
Does it make it in the top 5? Is it 5?
I think it's 4.
Oh, okay.
4 among the Power 5 or Power 4 openings now. Right there between. It's ahead of Arkansas, I think, and I think it's ahead of like Virginia Tech, for example. You're still Auburn. That's still a program that's won a national championship and played for another national championship in the last 15 years, so it can be done.
By the way, I'm looking at the odds over on FanDuel for national championship. Ohio State plus 220, Indiana plus 470, Alabama 8-1, and then team you mentioned, Texas A&M 9-1, 4th best odds.
I'm telling you, they're underappreciated, and that Notre Dame game it matters. I think Mike Elko. I'm going to be interested to see how he avoids the hot seat talk, or not the hot seat talk, the coaching carousel talk. He tried to dispel the Penn State rumors, but they'll continue. And even if somebody says, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere," we have a hard time believing them. But I think Mike Elko is a definite Coach of the Year candidate. There's no question.
Sam, go ahead.
Bill, there's a big one in Lubbock this coming weekend between BYU and Texas Tech from a Big 12 perspective. In your eyes, does this fall as an elimination game? Is Texas Tech out of it if they lose to BYU?
Maybe. But for them, it's not an elimination game for BYU.
Sure, right.
I think this is the first of 2 with these 2. I think Texas Tech will win on Saturday, and then they'll do it again in the Big 12 championship game. And the only question is, can the Big 12 take advantage of all that ACC carnage we were talking about and get a second playoff berth? And it would have to be these 2 teams probably. Both have beat Utah. Texas Tech's defense is nasty. Their margin of victory is off the charts. They're a different team with Baron Morton. But BYU finds ways to win, man. They did this last year. They pushed to 9-0. They're tough. Barrett Bachmeier's tough. They're going to have to control the game on the ground a little bit with LJ Martin to have a chance here. But I went back and forth. It's either Texas Tech blowout or, field goal game, and I couldn't decide which one.
In the final 30 seconds here, is the die cast now on Deion Sanders? I mean, another blowout loss. I mean, they get destroyed by Arizona. He's not letting players talk to the media afterwards. I mean, is there any way this ends with him being around for next season? Because I can't see it.
I can't either. And it's unfortunate because I do enjoy having him in college football, but the combination of what he was going through in the offseason with bladder cancer and then this season, I just think it translates to Deion probably not coaching at Colorado next season. But we'll see. You never know with him.
I just wonder if it's a net positive. When he leaves after this season, is it a net positive, the Deion experience? And I got to go, so we don't have time to answer it. But in a yes or no, is it a net positive for Colorado?
Yes. Travis Hunter and Shador, I'd still think yes.
Okay. Bill, always appreciate it, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks to Bill Bender for hanging out with us from the sporting news and talking college football. Now we go back to the NFL. Our friend Brian Twining joins us in 10 minutes to talk about the NASCAR Cup Series finale in Phoenix yesterday. Sam Yarnell. Ugliness last night in the nation's capital, or just outside the nation's capital, where the Commanders fall to the Seahawks in a big way. Seattle really showing out. And we keep asking this question about, teams separating themselves, and Seattle certainly has to be a part of that conversation right now as they get a big win last night against the Commanders. But the story of the game winds up being what happens late in this game. And I'm going to warn people in advance, what we're about to show you could be graphic. It could be upsetting to some of you to watch. So you've been warned in advance before we show you the video of Jayden Daniels suffering this fourth quarter injury. You've been warned, so here we go. With 7.5 minutes left in this game, down 38-7, he's still on the field for Dan Quinn's team and winds up injuring himself on this play. It's a dislocated elbow, we have learned since last night, and obviously that's going to knock him out for the rest of the season, and it's a horrible injury to see. So a lot of people are going after Dan Quinn today. Obviously, for having him on the field in that spot. And Dan Quinn's not really backing down from his decision to have Jayden Daniels on the field in that spot. Sam, as somebody who's from that area, the DMV, we all remember Robert Griffin III, who's been all over social media doing the emo thing about this. I'm curious to get your thoughts on Daniels being injured, what it means to the franchise, all the positives of last year and now where they are now. Give me your thoughts.
So a couple of things to make clear. Jason said, I am from DC. I am, however, not a Commanders fan.
I know.
So maybe it provides a little more objectivity. The other thing we need to make clear is that we're taping this before Dan Quinn gets fired later this afternoon. So that news has not broken yet. Obviously,
happen.
It is inevitable. There is absolutely no way in any of the 32 NFL franchises that you can do what Dan Quinn did yesterday in that spot. There's even less of a way that you can do it for the Washington Commanders with the trauma that this team has with starting quarterbacks.
That's the right word.
With the trauma that this fan base has survived from the previous regime, and you are the direct successor, flatly unacceptable. Obviously, Dan Quinn will be fired because of this in my mind. I feel like that is unquestionable at this point. He will not see Week 10 for the Washington Commanders, nor next season, nor any of them.
Do you have anything that tells you? Do you have anything that tells you that is imminent, though? Because I don't.
This isn't a survivable offense. This is not a survivable offense with a Washington Commanders team now who has nothing to play for.
Hold on. But that would be considered knee-jerk to do it immediately the day after rather than taking things in. And I don't think this regime, if this were Daniel Snyder, maybe. I don't know if this regime, which is being viewed more as, what's the word I'm looking for?
Professional.
Certainly professional, but more measured. I would say more measured would be the word I would use. I think they're going to take a step back. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they're going to do it in season. I don't think they'll do it in season.
I think that there would be a measuredness to the response being, Dan Quinn, there is one thing that you cannot do as the Washington Commanders head coach, and it is throw your quarterback out and make him get injured in a spot where he shouldn't have even been on the field. And he did that.
I'm not disagreeing, by the way. I'm just saying what I think is going to happen.
But from a logic perspective, right? You now, as an organization, can't have that guy for whatever the remainder of your season is. Obviously, you're not going to make the playoffs. You're playing for a draft pick at this point. You're playing for next season on a team that has a lot of young players on it. You can't have that guy leading that team because now you're going to have these other young players on your team. And well, Terry McLaurin's not young, but he's got an injury that's been nagging, right? You've got a running back room that's young and needs to stay healthy. So I don't trust Dan Quinn to keep them healthy going into next season when Jayden Daniels is back. This is a colossal disaster in Washington, one that you thought they weren't capable of in this new era, but clearly they still are.
And that's what's remarkable to me, is how quickly narratives can change. It really is. I mean, Dan Quinn was the toast of the town. Everybody loved Dan Quinn. What a hire, how it's worked out, and Jayden Daniels and the future of this franchise. It just amazes me sometimes. It's, to a different degree. It's James Franklin. James Franklin before the season, the national championship aspirations and all that. We thought the Commanders coming off of last year, they could win the division this year. Eagles off to a sluggish start. And now it's complete and utter disaster. And we're talking about firing the head coach before week 10 even starts. And it's just... It's amazing when you sit there and actually think about it, how quickly fortunes can change, all based on one decision. And look, Jayden Daniels shouldn't be out there in that spot. There's just no getting around it. And I feel bad that we're shortchanging the Seahawks here, and we could do more tomorrow in leftovers.
Oh, they played perfect football. They played perfect football in the first half. It was outstanding to watch. They threw a perfect game.
But, we talked about Super Bowl odds before. You have to hit show more to get to Seattle at 13-1.
Yeah, no.
It's amazing. You got to hit show more. They're
a show more team.
They're a show more team. That's very good, Sam. They are a show more team. I think that's what we're going to have to label some of these teams now. Show more. If you're not on the first page of the leaderboard, you are a show more team. I love it. Sam, we'll see you tomorrow. We're coming back to talk NASCAR. Brian Twining of Bleacher Nation joins us. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Tomorrow on the show, NFL weekend leftovers. Everything we didn't have time to get to today, which is a lot. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the SportsWrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. We are on all of them. You could also watch this show on over 260 affiliates around the U.S. and across Canada. But if you don't have the chance to do that, you can also watch it over on YouTube, the SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. It is all the rage. Go and subscribe today. You get the show there Monday through Friday commercial free. You get SportsWrap shorts, and none of this costs you a dime. In this day and age of subscriptions and everything costing you something, this costs you nothing except the click. That's all you got to do. Go and subscribe. Do it today. You can also catch a SportsWrap shorts on TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, Instagram, SportsWrap Jason Page as well. And without any further delay on this Monday, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, we bring in our friend Brian Twining, who does a great job with Bleacher Nation, as we did last Monday on the show, to recap the end, appropriately enough, of the NASCAR season, the Cup Series championship race in Phoenix. He was there. And Brian, I am dying to know what you think of Kyle Larson. Gets the fortune of a caution flag with a few laps remaining And basically, that steals the Cup championship away from Denny Hamlin, who you just have to feel for. All I keep seeing is his daughters crying on pit row and just sitting there saying to myself, like, oh, my God. I mean, this couldn't be any worse for Denny Hamlin trying to win his first Cup championship. And instead, it's Kyle Larson that gets the win. You were there. What did you see?
It was a very somber feeling in the media center, out on pit road, just in the garage area. Even with the fans that were walking out after the race, people were left speechless as to what happened there, because this wasn't the case of Denny not having the car to win the championship again. He was the best car all day from the get-go, led over 200 of the 312 laps, and it was looking like destiny was finally calling with 4 to go. And then William Byron has the flat, wrecks into the wall, and then the ending chaos ensued.
There's an argument to be made of whether or not Kyle Larson should even be in the championship four. He didn't win a single race in the postseason.
First champion ever to do that in the format.
Is that going to be a rallying cry around NASCAR as they talk about how they're going to change this playoff format going into next season?
I don't know if it will. I think they probably already have an idea of where the format is headed. But let me just say this on Kyle Larson's championship run. Although he didn't get a win, he did have, I think I heard last night, it was something like 7 top 5s during this stretch. And to be able to win a championship in this format without winning just speaks to the resilience of the 5 team and how solid they've been all year. And when you look at this race as a whole, just in itself, they had probably the most obstacles to overcome of the championship 4 drivers, because he didn't have the car. He probably had the 4th best car. He suffered a flat, was a lap down, had to take a wave around at one point, and still was able to get there at the end to win the championship.
What does a second championship mean when we talk about the career of Kyle Larson?
He's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's largely considered the best driver in the sport in this short era, I guess we could say, in the 2020s and in the Gen 7 era. There's nobody that you can look at that has been more successful on a consistent basis than the 5 team.
Could this be the last great chance Denny Hamlin has?
Who knows? With the format likely changing, maybe he can make another run or 2 at it. But with him having only 2 years left on his contract with Joe Gibbs Racing as a full-time driver, I really don't see him, especially with this type of heartbreak occurring, moving beyond that in his career. So, I mean, this could have been the best opportunity, but we don't know what next year will bring with the format that could actually help him.
Thoughts on Ryan Blaney?
Fully expected that team to go in there and win. I asked him as much in the media center, like if that was the goal and if it would feel any different. And he said it in the post-race presser, like, as from Penske, they wanted to come in here and win the race and essentially prove, like, yeah, you should be happy we weren't here competing for the championship.
Which is amazing. It's an afterthought, but Ryan Blaney winning this race, it's only the second time, if I'm not mistaken, that a non-playoff driver.
It's ironic that he was the first champion to not win the race, and then he's a non-championship driver, and he gets his first win at the track that he finished runner-up at in each of the last three years.
Give me a thought on this off season, Brian. That is to come in the last 30 seconds that we have here. What is the storyline you are most anxious to sort of follow throughout the off season?
Oh, it's definitely the scoring format. Combination of both how the points are going to be accrued throughout the year and the playoffs, because we don't have an idea what the playoffs, or if there is playoffs, is going to still be there. But to me, that is by far well beyond the lawsuit that's going on as well.
All right, Brian Twining has done a great job with us all season long on NASCAR. First of all, thank you for that. I appreciate you. And hopefully we can get you on.
Me on.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll get you on and talk some football throughout the remainder of this season, as I know that is the other part of your work over at Bleacher Nation. And it's not like Brian doesn't have anything to keep him busy here over the next several weeks. Thank you, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Brian Twining. Thanks to Bill Bender, Sam Yarnell, and you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Hi there. I'm Jason Page. You like what you're watching? subscribe. We've got SportsWrap shorts on this channel. We've got the show. We've got clips from the show. What else do you have to do? You probably follow a lot of other things that aren't half as exciting as this show is. So what are you waiting for? Click the subscribe button, follow the channel, watch the content. Bye.